Stopped counting the days lost in the rhythm.
The spray of fluid, which was visible in NASA's live video feed as a torrent of snowflake-like particles emanating from the rear section of the Soyuz MS-22 capsule, was described by a NASA commentator as a coolant leak. The mishap occurred just as two of the cosmonauts, Crew Commander Sergei Prokopyev and Flight Engineer Dimitri Petelin, were suited in preparing for a planned spacewalk to move a radiator from one module to another on the Russian segment of the ISS. An official for Russia's mission control operations near Moscow was heard telling Prokopyev and Petelin in a radio transmission that their spacewalk was being cancelled while engineers worked to determine the nature and origin of the leak. The NASA commentator on the livestream, Rob Navias, broadcasting from NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, also said the spacewalk was called off because of the leak, which he said began about 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Navias said the Soyuz craft arrived at the space station in September, bringing Prokopyev, Petelin, and U.S. astronaut Frank Rubio to the ISS, and has remained attached to the Earth-facing side of the orbital laboratory. The spacewalk planned for Wednesday was postponed once before, in late November, because of faulty cooling pumps in the cosmonauts' spacesuits, Navias said. The spacewalk was to be the 12th this year at the ISS and the 257th in the history of the 22-year-old platform for assembly, maintenance, and upgrade work, according to NASA. Navias said it was too soon to know what implications the leak might have for the integrity of that spacecraft, and whether it might pose any difficulties for returning crew to Earth at the end of their mission. The ISS, spanning the length of a U.S. football field and orbiting some 250 miles above Earth, has been continuously occupied since 2000, operated by AU.S, Russian-led partnership that includes Canada, Japan, and 11 European countries. Elon Musk sells another 22 million Tesla shares for $3.6 billion. Elon Musk just sold another 22 million shares of Tesla, raising $3.6 billion. Musk sold the shares on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week. The sales were disclosed in an SEC filing late Wednesday. Musk did not disclose the reason for the sales in the filing. They're his first sales of Tesla stock since early November, when he sold 19.5 million shares shortly after closing on his purchase of Twitter. Before Musk first started his efforts to buy Twitter, he rarely sold Tesla shares. Typically, his sales were tied to what he needed to sell to pay taxes he owed on the exercise of options. But since the first announcing plans to buy Twitter in April, he has sold a total of $22.9 billion worth of Tesla stock. Those stock sales, and the amount of his attention that has been focused on Twitter, has worried Tesla shareholders and analysts. The Twitter nightmare continues as Musk uses Tesla as his own ATM machine to keep funding the red ink at Twitter, which gets worse by the day as more advertisers flee the platform, with controversy increasing driven by Musk, wrote Dan Ives, analyst at Wedbush Securities, in a note early Wednesday. When does it end? This remains the worry on the Tesla story, as Musk has managed to change the narrative of Tesla from the fundamental EV transformation story to a source of funds funding the Twitter turnaround, which we believe will go down as the most overpaid tech acquisition in the history of merger and acquisitions, and remains a train wreck situation. Musk's sales this week represent just less than 5% of the Tesla shares he held outright. He's likely to get even more options early next year after Tesla's upcoming financial results are reported. But the value of those shares have been dropping steadily. Tesla shares are down 55% so far this year. The drop in the value of Tesla shares is a major reason that he recently lost his title as the richest person on the planet. Ives told CNN it's possible that Musk is using the funds from the Tesla stock sales to cover losses at Twitter, or to pay down loans or other investors he used to help fund his $44 billion purchase. Neither would be good news for Twitter or Tesla, he said. Ives said Tesla's board, which is made up of Musk fans, may have to place some limits on him. Musk is the heart and lungs of Tesla, but his attention is solely focused on Twitter, and selling stock on a continual basis is not a good combination for Tesla, Ives said. While 20% of the Tesla stock decline is due to concerns about demand and growing EV competition, 80% is because of his focus on Twitter. Twitter needs to have a CEO who's not Musk.
China pushes vaccines as retreat from zero COVID turns messy. The push comes as the World Health Organization also raised concerns that China's 1.4 billion population was not adequately vaccinated, and the United States offered help in dealing with a surge in infections. Beijing last Wednesday began dismantling its tough, zero-COVID controls, dropping testing requirements and easing quarantine rules that had caused anxiety for tens of millions and battered the world's second-largest economy. The pivot away from President Xi Jinping's signature, zero-COVID, policy followed unprecedented widespread protests against it. But, WHO Emergencies Director Mike Ryan said infections were exploding in China well before the government's decision to phase out its stringent regime. There's a narrative at the moment that China lifted the restrictions and all of a sudden the disease is out of control, Ryan told a briefing in Geneva. The disease was spreading intensively because I believe the control measures in themselves were not stopping the disease. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said on Thursday China has institutional advantages to fight COVID. We will certainly be able to smoothly get through the peak of the epidemic, he told a regular news briefing in response to White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby saying that the United States was ready to help if China requested it. On Thursday night, China's state asset regulator urged state-backed big drug makers to ensure supplies of COVID-related medicines. The companies include China Resources, China General Technology and Sinopharm, which own businesses that produce drugs that could ease coronavirus symptoms. One video posted online on Wednesday showed several people in thick winter clothes hooked up to intravenous drips as they sat on stools on the street outside a clinic in central Hubei province. Reuters verified the location of the video. The COVID scare in China also led people in Hong Kong, Macau, and in some neighborhoods in Australia to go in search for fever medicines and test kits for family and friends on the mainland. For all its efforts to quell the virus since it erupted in the central city of Wuhan in late 2019, China may now pay a price for shielding a population that lacks herd immunity and has low vaccination rates among the elderly, analysts said. Authorities have let cases in Beijing and other cities spread to the point where resuming restrictions, testing and tracing would be largely ineffective in bringing outbreaks under control, analysts at Eurasia Group said in a note on Thursday. Upward of 1 million people could die from COVID in the coming months. Other experts have put the potential toll at more than 2 million. China has reported just 5,235 COVID-related deaths so far, extremely low by global standards. China's stock markets and its currency fell on Thursday on concerns of the virus spread. China reported 2,000 new symptomatic COVID-19 infections for December 14 compared with 2,291 a day. The official figures, however, have become less reliable as testing has dropped. It also stopped reporting asymptomatic figures on Wednesday. China, which has said around 90% of its population is vaccinated against COVID, has now decided to roll out the second booster shot for high-risk groups and elderly people over 60 years of age. National Health Commission spokesperson Mi Feng said on Wednesday it was necessary to accelerate the promotion of vaccinations, according to comments reported by state media. The latest official data shows China administered 1.43 million COVID shots on Tuesday, well above rates in November of around 100,000 to 200,000 doses a day. In total, it has administered 3.45 billion shots. But one Shanghai care home said on Wednesday a number of its residents have not yet been vaccinated, and considering their underlying medical condition, it has barred visitors and non-essential deliveries while stockpiling medicines, test kits and protective gear. "We are racking our brains on how to ensure the safety of your grandparents," the Yuepu Tianyi nursing home wrote in a letter posted on its official WeChat account page. Beijing has been largely resistant to Western vaccines and treatments, having relied on locally made shots. Pfizer's oral COVID-19 treatment Paxlovid is one of the few foreign ones it has approved. The treatment, however, has only been available in hospitals for high-risk patients. But signs have appeared in recent days that it may soon be made more widely available. China Meheco Group County Limited's stock jumped after it announced a deal to import the U.S. drugmaker's treatment on Wednesday. As the virus spreads, President Xi, his ruling Politburo and senior government officials began a two-day meeting to plot a recovery for China's battered economy, according to sources with knowledge of the matter. China's economy lost more steam in November as factory output growth slowed and retail sales extended declines, both missing forecasts and clocking their worst readings since May, data on Thursday showed. Economists estimate that China's growth has slowed to around 3% this year, marking one of China's worst performances in almost half a century.